Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Kurt, aka the Vitruvian Gamer, and today I'm here with not a top 10 list, just a list. Coincidentally, 10 games. And these are games that I played for the first time when I was on vacation in Paros. So, most of these games, and I think 8 out of 10 games that I'm going to mention, I don't have in my collection. 2 of them I received because someone took them from me from Gen Con. Took them for me from there, and we got to play it there for the first time, so I will mention those as well. They're in the list. Also, it's not a top 10 list, so I'm just going to mention them in order that I think in order that I played them. I think so. Maybe not. No, I don't think so. Maybe. Who cares? Anyway, so these are 10 first impressions. So I will mention how much players we played, and I will give a first impressions. So don't take this as a full-fledged review, because I've only played these games once. Besides the games that I own myself, I've played them a couple of times more, and also that will be mentioned. So without further ado, let's go with these 10 first impression games first played in Paros, Greece in 2019. First, we have Hodari. Hodari is a card drafting game, and it, for me, this game we played it with 3 players, and for me, this game felt like a mix somehow between Seven Wonders because of the drafting and Splendor in some kind of way. Because in this game you are drafting cards, so but not with cards in your hand. There will be 5 colors of cards on the board in this colorful board, and you are going to draft these cards first. I think first draft. Let me think. I already forget how it exactly works. I think every round, and I think you play 3 rounds, comes into 2 phases. So first, I think you will be drafting from... Are you? Yeah, you have this circular... Oh, sorry about this. You have this circular thing in the middle where the symbols of the players are on, and each turn you will turn it clockwise. So each player will get a color that he will draft a card from. So they will draw the top card of that color, and then they get to choose. Also feels a little bit like Biblios maybe. So they get to choose either to build that card, pay for it into their tableau, which also makes other cards of that color in the future cheaper, hence the Splendor thing, or they will sell the card for money, and money depends on what round it is. In that way, you're trying to build a tableau with cards of certain colors, and those cards will also advance you on these different tracks that you will score at the end of rounds. You can get to a certain amount of blue, for example, which also will give you statues, and statue will give you bonus points and help you in other tracks maybe, because each time you build a statue you get to advance on one of the tracks. You put a little marker in the statue spot of one of the 4 colors, or 5 colors, 4, because one is a purple, one is a special one, and you advance on that track. In the meantime, you also can have multipliers and stuff like that, or to get bonus points. Very interesting game. I liked it quite a bit. Do I need it in my collection? No. On the other hand, Elisa liked it quite a bit. Now, it might be because she won the game, but she immediately said, buy this game. Now, I was strict and I told her, if you really want this game that I don't really need in my collection, but I wouldn't mind, you buy it. And she said, I will. So she liked it very much. That's Hodari. It plays up to 5 players, 2 to 5 players. And it's by, let's see, the German version is by Heinz Gluck. Maybe it's better known from Z-Man Games, apparently the English version. Alright, that's Hodari. Let's go to the next one. The next one is Welcome to Dinoworld, from the same publishers, I think. No, it's by Alley Cat Games. So this is designed by James O'Connor, Nick Shaw, and David Turchi, which they're doing a great job at this moment. And this is a roll and write. Are you rolling dice? Are you? Yes, you are. So some dice are rolled, you have a result, and that result can be split amongst certain different actions that you can draw on your own paper. You can get dinosaurs in your park, in your Dinoworld, and each dinosaur needs, each pen with the dinosaurs needs a number of electricity, but you can only have that much electricity in a complete game. There are some scoring cards in the middle of the table. That's for everyone. But there are also, and that was kind of special, 3 scoring cards, 3 goal cards in between 2 players. So in between me and the player to my left, there were 3 cards. In between me and the player to my right, there were also 3 cards. And you're trying to figure that out. And the first player to get the goal of a certain card will score it. Will get the card and score it at the end of the game. If you get it at the same moment, you flip the card or you turn it around and you will both score the card. So it's a race between you and these 2 other players. You have the central goals, that's a race with everybody else. I think everybody can score those. In the meantime, you're driving little dinosaurs and you're making routes as well. There's some goal cards that score because you have certain routes. You can build some facilities as well that score you bonus points. It was fun. It was not my favorite roll and write that I played so far. Didn't love it enough, so I will not get that in my collection, but it was a fun game. Next one, completely different game than Welcome to Dinoworld. That's
scattered across
that one, because I cannot pronounce the title of the game. Yeah, so I got some help from the friends who apparently do know how to pronounce.
I will 3 points. Okay.
And I'm very happy about that. So this game is 1 to 4 player game published by Board and Dice and designed by Daniele Tassini. I think the solo play was also by David Turchi, by the way. And in this game, this is a heavy game on Board Game Geek. It says 3.72, so it's a heavier game where you are in this city in Mesoamerica and you are, you command the force of worker dice. And each time you do an action, or most times you do an action, they will increase in strength. So they start at 1, and each time you do one of these actions, they increase to the next number. Now, the higher they are, the more food they will need, or the more payment they need at the end of a complete cycle. And so you want to take care of that because the money can be really tight in this game. It is a rondelle-ish game because you're moving your workers a number of spots. You can move them 1, 2, or 3 spaces around the board. When you enter a space where there are already other dice, you pay money to be able to get there. And this way you're trying to get up some tracks, you're trying to get resources, and that's about it. It's mainly the thing is getting up those tracks because they score a bunch of points. Now, we played a 4-player game. The guy who taught us, Sander, he played the game before. The other 3 players, they were noobs, like I was, and it showed that he played the game before. He won by a mile. He was a mile ahead of us, and maybe it was a little bit frustrating. And in the end, I realized very soon that it was not my type of game. I can see why people really like this, because this game is very popular. But for me, it was too convoluted. It looked nice with the pyramid that you're building in the middle of the table with these domino-ish tiles. It looks very neat, but in the end, it made me feel. In some way, it made me feel like a more convoluted Marco Polo in some way. So I'm sticking to Marco Polo to give me that same feeling in a shorter time with less headache and maybe less frustration, because sometimes I felt a little bit frustrated. I'm happy I played it, but it won't be a part of my collection, sadly enough. The next one was a special one. I saw the cover. I saw the cover. I was intrigued. Then I saw the components, and I immediately said, "Oh crap, an abstract game," because I'm not good at abstract games, and I tend not to like them. And I'm talking about the game Bumuntu. Now, Bumuntu is by WizKids. Designer Tim Blank, plays 2 to 5 players, and in this game you have a grid of tiles of a number of different animals. You always play, I think, with 8, and there are 10 in the box, so you have a little bit of difference each time. You remove 2 at random, and you have this grid of these tiles, also nice tiles, by the way, and each player will start on a tile. And if it's your turn, depending on what tile you're on, what animal the tile shows you, you get to move your worker in a way, depending on that. For example, the flamingo, you could fly to another flamingo and then move one to an adjacent tile. The tile you left on, you started your turn on, you get that behind your screen. That's the tile you will score at the end of the game. In that way, you're moving around each turn and trying to get these tiles. There are some tiles that let you manipulate the order of the animals, which manipulate the points that it will score at the end of the turn. The higher on the track, the more points they will score. Some is points for each of those tiles. Some will have, if you have the most of them, you will score X amount of points. If you have the second most, you will score a little bit less. It was quite interesting. If I find this game for a decent price, I might get this. This is very easy to play, very easy to explain as well. There are some rules about that you cannot be with 2 on the space. You can end next to on an empty space, because the board will get empty after a while. But very cool, and you get these bananas. From most of the tiles you get bananas, and you can use that before your movement to move to a different spot. If you're next to a tile, you have to move on the tile first before you can activate it. And very interesting thing. And you also have some set collection. To have the most of them, there are 2 types. You have masks. I think the player who has the most masks scores a bunch of points, and then you have this other thing that, depending on how much you have, the more you have, the more points you will score at the end of the game as well. Interesting game. It surprised me. So Bumuntu, not bad at all. The next game, I only played 1 session of it, which enthralled an introduction and 3 sessions, and that's Ultimate Werewolf Legacy. So this is the werewolf game as we all know it, but this time Legacy. Now, first of all, the book that comes with this game, that's so one player will be the game master, if you have to give it a name, and he has this big, pretty cool looking book, and that book tells him what is going to happen. And it was interesting, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but honestly, the first 3 parts that we played felt a lot like Werewolf, so there was not that much difference. You also don't have that much information, so it's much of a guessing game. But I believe after some games, and after they add some stuff to it, and they already did some interesting, funny things, I guess this might be a very cool way to play Werewolf, the Legacy style way. And every decision that's made, and some things that happen that you have to decide in a group, you have to vote for it and stuff like that, have consequences. And that's pretty cool. I think the story might be cool. It's not my kind of game. I knew that before I start playing it, but I wanted to join at least 1 session to know what it was all about. And yeah, it's for people who like Werewolf. I think this might be a must-buy. The next one keeps us in the same universe, and I'm talking about Silver Amulet, which is a game that I own. So I got this from Gen Con, so a friend of mine took this to Greece for me. And this, as you can see, is by Ted Alspach, the werewolf guy. But this has not really anything to do with werewolves. The story is that you are mayor of a village and you don't want people in your village that attract werewolves. So the worst people, like the burglar and the witch, they attract a lot of werewolves. So what happens in this game is that each player starts with 5 cards face down in front of him, which is their village. You get to see 2 of them. So we have some information. And each player does the same, and if it's your turn, you are going to draw either the top card of the deck or the top card of the discard pile. If you draw the top card of the deck, you look at it and you decide. You have 2 choices. Well, 3. You can discard it. You can also discard it and use its discard actions. Most of the village types have a discard action. So if you discard it, you get to do the action. And this might be look at a face down card, turn a face down card up, all those kinds of things where you get more information about what's in the villagers, of course. So the next thing that you can do is put that new villager that you drew into your village. So you can exchange a card with a new card. If you drew it face down from the face down pile, you also place it face down in your village. So other people don't know what you got. If you took it from the discard pile, you place it face up in your village. But you can get rid of cards this way, because if you know, hopefully that you got it right, that you have more than one of the same type of villager, you can exchange that new card with all of those villagers of the same type. So you slide them away from you. You say, I'm going to replace these villagers with a new one. You flip them, and if you're correct, awesome. You get to discard the ones you were getting rid of, and you put the new one in its place. So you're getting fewer cards that way. If you're wrong, well, then you sadly enough they get flipped back, I think, and you have to add the new villager to your village so your village grows, which you don't want. And this way you're playing until someone calls a vote. You can only vote if you have less than 5 cards, so you have to get rid of at least one of them. If you vote, every other player gets one more turn. After that, you flip your cards, and with the person with the low, if you were the voter, if you called the vote and you are the player with the lowest value of villagers, then you score 0 points, which is what you want. The other players just score whatever they have. If you got it wrong, as the person who called the vote, you score your village plus 10 points, which you don't want to. Some villagers that have special abilities when they're face up and all that stuff. A very neat game. We played it 4 players in Paros. I played it 2 players yesterday with Elisa. It's a very decent game. Now you might see this box is quite big. It has a lot of air in it. It's it's quite empty. That's because they say if you have more silver games, which there will be a silver bullet, I think, in a few months, you can add it to it, or you can sleeve it and put it in, let it take more space. But still was a little bit crazy. Also, underneath the insert was a promo pack of new cards with the number 12, I think. So don't forget to look underneath the cover. Next game is also a game that I own now, and this is probably my favorite one that I played at Paros. And this is a roll and write. Without the rolling, it's a flip and write. So you're flipping cards and you're drawing these things on a map because you're a cartographer or a cartographer. Someone who draws maps. And this is in the world of Role Player, the cool dice drafting, dice placement, Dungeons and Dragons character creating game. And this is in the same world. So you're playing 4 seasons. Every season will have 2 scoring cards. So there are 4 scoring cards in the game always, and each season you will score another combination of 2 of them. So what you do is each time you're going to flip a card, it will tell you either 1 or 2 types of terrain and 1 or 2 types of shape. And these are these typical Tetris shape stuff. And you're going to draw a combination that you wish to do. Sometimes a smaller Tetris shape can give you coins, which score you each round. And this way you're going to draw forest, villages, farmland, water, trying to score those goal cards. But sometimes you draw a ruin, and then you draw the next card, and you have to draw that type of terrain and that shape on top of a ruin. You have to overlap one of the ruins on the sheet that you're drawing on. So it kind of, you have to think what you want to do with that. Sometimes you will draw a monster, and this is where it gets very interesting. So if you draw a monster, there are these arrows on that card, and you give your own map to the player in that direction, and that player gets to draw the shape of the monster and draws little monster heads in it. And after a season is done, it has a number, and each card has a number on it. So if you reach the total added up of that season card, the season ends, and you're going to score that round. So you're going to score those 2 cards, and you get minus points for each empty space adjacent to a monster space. So if you get the other player's map and you have to draw the monster shape, you want that monster to be alone and a lot of spaces around it uncovered. So the other player has to figure out, do I want to go for these goal cards, or do I want to draw it here so I get less negative points? You do that for 4 seasons, and you tally up your score after 4 scoring rounds. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, do I like this game a lot. This is also playable solo. I will probably do a solo playthrough of this on the channel because, oh boy, I'm in love with this game. Very cool game, Cartographers. Ooh, awesome game. Then I've played, this is also a special one. So I've played Era, Medieval Age, which is by Matt Leacock, the famous designer, Pandemic. And this is actually a new implementation of an older game of him, which was called Roll Through the Ages, which was one of the early roll and writes of modern board games, in which you had this wooden player board. Each player had a wooden player board with these pegs on it, and that would you would keep your resources track there. So it looked cool, but I'm not sure if it was necessary. With those resources, you were building buildings, and you were just crossing off these buildings on a piece of paper, which for us here was a little bit meh. We got the game, we played it 2 or 3 times, and I sold it afterwards, or I traded it away. This game does the same thing, but again, you're rolling dice. You have your own dice pool depending on the buildings you have, and you roll the dice, you get 2 rerolls, and then you go to a few steps. And one of those steps is build stuff. You get the dice give you resources that you add to your resource pool, and then you pay those resources to build. But this time you're not drawing on a piece of paper. No, this time you have this plastic player board, which doesn't look very appealing, I must be honest. But if you build a building, you're getting a building, and you put it on that board. And the placement can be important, because if you pack them together in a cluster, they might be vulnerable for plague and diseases. And this way you're trying to be smart to figure out how will I score points with these buildings, because they score points. You have end of game scoring buildings as well, and they give you new dice. For example, if you build a farm, you get a new yellow die, which mostly gives you food. If you build a lumberjack or something like that, you get a die that gives you more wood and stuff like that. There is disaster track, which score you negative points. There is a knowledge track, which score you positive points. Well, I think the player who has the most of it gets an amount of points. And that way you're trying to win the game. Each die also has some phases with a skull on it. You cannot re-roll that one, and that's going to give you disease. You can attack other players, but not too bad, honestly. It's a very abstract game, but cool thing is that you are really building a game. You can build walls, and at the end of the game, if you build every building that's in a completely surrounded wall, it scores twice the points, and also the player who has the biggest walled-in area will score a bunch of points as well. As a bonus, also, buildings inside the wall are safe for disease. Awesome. I somehow won this game, which was strange. I liked it quite a bit. I'm still not sure if I need this game. If someone asks me to play it, I will, but I don't think I'm going to get it, but it was fun. Try it out. The next one, again a roll and write. And this time, only cards. And stuff to write with, of course, because everything is done on these wipeable cards. The game is Silver and Gold. Now, in Silver and Gold, you're trying to discover these small islands. You get these cards with an island on them that has a number of squares on it. And again, you flip cards, because not a roll and write, is a flip and write as well. You flip a card, it has a Tetris shape, again the Tetris shapes, and you X out that shape on one of your islands if it's possible. If you cross out a square with a gold, you get a gold coin. The first player to reach 4 gold gets I think a reward that scores points, and each time a player reaches a reward, you have 3 lines of 4 coins, you get the next highest scoring card. So that gives you bonus points. There are spots with palm trees on them. If you cross off a palm tree, you look at the 4 available cards in the middle of the table, because if you finish an island, you get to take a new one. And for each island with a palm tree in the middle of the table, if you cross out the palm tree yourself, it scores you 1 point for each palm tree in the middle of the table. And that way you are going through a deck of cards. Well, you're going around for 4 rounds, I guess, or maybe 1 round per player, not sure. And you're trying to complete these islands. Some islands give you bonus points for certain color of islands that you complete, so you're trying to look for nice combinations. And that's how the game works. Very simple game, but I must say, I liked it. And I haven't seen it here in Belgium yet. I'm not sure if they will. This is, by the way, by Phil Walker Harding, which is a good designer, honestly. He did some of the best games of the last years. And it is published, and I forgot with some other games to tell you who the publisher was. And I wish I could tell you what the publisher was, because I cannot open it here. So I don't know who the publisher is, sadly enough. Anyway, Silver and Gold. I liked it, actually. Very light. Don't get me wrong, it's a very light game. And last but not least, that should be game number 10, is a game that I pre-ordered, but I didn't get it yet. It's by AEG, designed by Molly Johnson, Robert Melvin, and Sean Stankiewicz, I don't know how to pronounce it. And this game is called Point Salad. Now, Point Salad is a famous term in board gaming. Most of the time it means you score a bunch of these games where every action will score you points, and at the end of the game you have a whole load of points, and the highest point wins the game. Stefan Feld, for example, is one of the Point Salad game designers. This game, of course, Point Salad, it's a game about vegetables. You have these 6 types of vegetables, and you have a pile of cards. I'm not sure how many cards, but you have a bunch of cards, and you place them in 3 stacks, with the vegetable side at the bottom, and on the other side of the card you will have a scoring card, which means it will give you points for certain things. Some just 1 point for each carrot that you have. Maybe some give you negative points for each salad you have, And well, most of the times a combination. Some give you points at the end of the game if you have the most of a certain thing and all that stuff. So you have 3 stacks, and below it you put, I think, 2 cards. Below each stack you put 2 cards with their vegetable side face up. In your turn you have 2 options. Either take 2 vegetables from the supply, put them in your tableau, and then they get replaced by the top scoring cards of the piles and they become vegetables. Or you can take the top card of one of those scoring cards and it will become a scoring card for you. Actually, the third option, because you have one more, is if you realize that one of your scoring cards is not going to help you at all anymore, you can also, as an action, just flip the card to its vegetable side. You cannot do it otherwise. You cannot flip a vegetable to its scoring type. And you keep playing until all cards are gone, and then you just score your own scoring cards with the vegetables that you collected. Very simple idea, but so accessible, very fun. I went for a salad strategy, which didn't work out apparently in the end, but it was fun. I'm glad I will have it in the future. It's very simple to explain again and very simple to play, very fast to play. Board Game Geek also says 15 to 30 minutes. It's going to be quite correct, and plays 2 to 6 players. Yeah, it was fair, but the weight, as on Board Game Geek, also 1.07, which is very low. It's very simple, but it works and it has some strategy to it, and you have to look what other people are doing. Do I take what I want to score, or do I take what he's trying to score? Or if I take from this column of cards, if I take one, that scoring card will turn to a vegetable, so he cannot take it, because if he can take that scoring card, he's going to get a bunch of points from it, because he already has a lot of cabbages, for example. So I like that game quite a bit as well. And that ends my top 10. Some honorable mentions. I also played Fleet, 2-player game. I don't think that's a 2-player game, honestly, so didn't like it too much. We also played Topiary, which was not our first time that we played it. We played it 2 times this year. That's one game that I should get in my collection, because we like that quite a bit. Curious how it plays with 4, because this we play with 2 players. Yeah, we played Sierra West once, which I already played before, so it's not a first impression, but I keep on liking it quite a bit. Downtime is a little bit long sometimes, but besides that, it's an awesome game. And that's almost all that we played. We played The Mind and we won. That was pretty cool. We played some silly games that I didn't want to mention here, honestly. Like, What's the Meme, for example, which was meh. Say What was kind of fun with friends, to play with friends. Go check that out as well. Anyway, that's my list for today, folks. The 10 games I played in Paros, 10 games I played for the first time. So 10 first impressions. I hope you liked it. Let me know if you played any of these games, what you think of them. Maybe some of them you like more than me, and maybe some games you like way less than me. Let me know down below in the comments below. Alright folks, that's it. Thank you for watching. Feel free to thumbs up if you want. If you want to see more of this channel and you are not subscribed yet, push that subscribe button if you feel like it. Also, there is this bell icon. It lets you know whenever I post a new thing here on the channel. That's it. See you soon. Bye bye.